What happens when a courtroom, a place often filled with anxiety, fear, and consequences, suddenly becomes a classroom for one of life's most important lessons? On this day, inside Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, justice wasn't delivered through punishment. It was delivered through honesty. Pure, simple, undeniable honesty. The case itself appeared ordinary. A father stood before the bench, charged with driving 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. The road was marked 25 miles per hour. He had been clocked at 35. In most courtrooms, that would mean a fine, points on a license, a quick ruling, and on to the next case. But Judge Frank Caprio never treated people like case numbers. As the defendant stepped forward, the judge noticed something important. The man wasn't alone. Behind him sat his family, his wife, calm but attentive, and his young son, Menelik. The boy sat quietly, feet barely touching the floor, eyes moving carefully from the judge to his father. This was unfamiliar territory for him. Courts can feel intimidating, especially for children. The wood-paneled walls, the raised bench, the seriousness of every word spoken. Judge Caprio began as he always did, calm, respectful, attentive. He asked the father about the stop. Where were you going? Why were you driving faster than the limit? Were you aware of the speed? The father answered honestly, though carefully, like many people do when standing before a judge. He wasn't denying responsibility, but he was clearly hoping for understanding. Judge Caprio listened closely. Then, unexpectedly, he shifted his attention. Instead of responding right away, the judge looked toward the gallery, toward the family. "Why don't you bring your family up here?" he said. The request caught everyone off guard. This wasn't typical courtroom procedure. Children were rarely involved in cases like this. The father hesitated, unsure, but then he nodded. His wife stood, and little Menelik walked forward beside her, holding her hand tightly. They stopped near the front of the courtroom. Judge Caprio leaned forward, resting his hands near the microphone. His voice softened, not as a judge issuing a ruling, but as a man speaking to a child. "Menelik," he said gently, "I have a very important question for you." The courtroom fell silent. No one laughed. No one whispered. "Do you think your father is innocent or guilty?" For a moment, time seemed to pause. The father stiffened. This was not what he expected. The mother smiled nervously, glancing down at her son. Menelik didn't look confused. He didn't search for approval. He didn't hesitate. He answered the only way he knew how, with honesty. "He's guilty." The reaction was instant. The courtroom erupted in laughter. Even the judge smiled broadly. The father dropped his head, shaking it in disbelief, caught not by evidence, but by the truth spoken by his own son. Judge Caprio raised his hand, restoring order. But the warmth in the room didn't fade. Instead, it grew stronger. The judge looked at Menelik again. "You know," he said, "that was very honest." Menelik straightened his posture slightly. Judge Caprio took a moment, and in that moment, the courtroom became something more than a place of law. It became a place of teaching. The judge spoke about honesty, about how telling the truth matters even when it's hard, about how character isn't built when things are easy, but when doing the right thing might cost you something. He explained that honesty isn't about pleasing people, it's about respecting yourself. Then Judge Caprio turned back to the father. The law was clear, the violation was valid, but justice in his courtroom was never only about punishment. "I'm going to dismiss this case," the judge said. The room reacted immediately. Surprise, relief, smiles. The father looked up, stunned. Judge Caprio continued. "I'm not dismissing it because the charge wasn't legitimate," he said. "I'm dismissing it because your son showed us something more important today." He then did something that no one in the room would forget. He publicly praised Menelik, not as a child, but as a person with integrity. He thanked him for telling the truth, for not taking the easy way out, for doing the right thing, even when it meant admitting his father was wrong. The courtroom applauded, not because a ticket was dismissed, but because a lesson had been learned.
As the family walked away, the father placed a hand on his son's shoulder. No words were needed. That day, the father didn't just avoid a fine. He received something far more valuable, a reminder that his child was watching, learning, becoming. And Menelik left the courtroom knowing that honesty matters, that telling the truth earns respect, that character begins early. On that day, Judge Frank Caprio didn't just decide a traffic case, he shaped a moment that would stay with that family forever. Because sometimes the smallest voice in the courtroom delivers the biggest truth, and sometimes honesty really is the best policy.